Guys, and wait one. Guys, please check it. All of you get my voice on screen. Guys, please confirm to me. All of you get my voice on screen. Right, sir. And guys, sorry for delay. Then because of some previous class completion, it might be taking some time. Right. Right, sir. Check it, guys. Then what we completed in the last session, I think so. Then multiple inheritance points here we completed here. Multiple inheritance is not possible in the case of Java. This topic we understood. Good. Now coming to the next one, that is sixth difference here. Observe this clearly. Operator overloading is not possible in a Java. Not existed in Java. That's not possible in a Java. Operator overloading is not possible in a Java. That's it. Now, before going to understand operator overloading is possible or not possible in the case of Java, first we have to observe this clear. First we have to observe this now. What is an operator overloading? First understand it. Then after that, I'll go for which one, whether it is possible or not possible in the case of Java. Then we'll have some discussion on it. Right, sir. First of all, understand this operator overloading is possible or not possible. First of all, what is an operator overloading? Very clear, sir. Previously, we had some discussion. When a programming language is an object-oriented programming language, sir, now tell me. Tell me, sir, when a programming language is an object-oriented programming language? Come on, guys. Now we have to answer for it. When a programming language is an object-oriented programming language, right? Right, sir. Whenever a programming language is representing data in the form of objects, then that programming language is called as, like which one? Object-oriented programming language. Right, sir. If any programming language is representing data in the form of objects, then that programming language is nothing but which one? Object-oriented programming language. Come on, guys. Now tell me, while representing data in the form of objects, a set of features here we have to follow. That set of features are like which one here? Object-oriented features. What are these object-oriented features here we are having actually? If you observe these object-oriented features, no, the first one is like which one here? Class, and second one is like which one here? Object. Third one is like which one? Encapsulation, and fourth one is like which one here? Abstraction, and the fifth one is like which one? Inheritance. Then sixth one is like which one? Polymorphism. Right, sir. Polymorphism. And seventh one is like which one here? Message passing. Right, sir. Operator overloading is not possible in Java. First one is like which one? Class, object, encapsulation, abstraction, inheritance, polymorphism, and message passing. Right, sir. Out of these object-oriented features, 4 features are the most powerful object-oriented features. What are the 4 features that most powerful object-oriented features now? Encapsulation, abstraction, inheritance, polymorphism. Encapsulation, abstraction, inheritance, and polymorphism. That's it. Encapsulation, abstraction, inheritance, and polymorphism. These are the object-oriented features here. We can understand clearly. Out of this, I required now at present polymorphism here. I required polymorphism. I don't require like which one here, no. Inheritance and all. I required only polymorphism. All of you observe this clearly now. What exactly the polymorphism here? What exactly this polymorphism here? We have to understand it clearly. What's the meaning of this polymorphism now? Right, sir. If one thing is existed, if one thing is existing now more than one form, if one thing is existing more than one form, then it is called as polymorphism. If one thing is existing more than one form, then it is called as like which one they know? Polymorphism. Right, sir. This is the meaning of like which one? Polymorphism. If one thing is existing more than one form, then it is called as polymorphism. See examples if you observe there, in outside might be number of examples are available. Say for example, if you go for some movies, if you go for movies there, single actor and can play more than one role. If you take might be best example is Dashavatar movie. I think all of you might be aware about it. Dashavatar movie, where Kamal Hassan is an actor, he played nearly 10 roles. But person is single, but he played 10 roles. Understand it clearly now. So one thing is exist in more than one form. So one person he appeared in more than one form. Then it is called as which one? Polymorphism. So if one thing is exist in more than one form, then it is called as which one? Polymorphism. Right, sir. What is the advantage of polymorphism actually? The main advantage of polymorphism, the main advantage of this polymorphism is flexibility. The main advantage of polymorphism is like which one? Of flexibility. The main advantage of polymorphism is flexibility. Flexibility to design applications. The main advantage of polymorphism is which one? Of flexibility. This is one point. Right, sir. Next one. After completion of this. Other thing is like which one? Flexibility. That's the main advantage of polymorphism. How many types of polymorphisms are existed here? How many types of polymorphisms are existed? So now here, two types of polymorphisms are existed. No, what are the two types of polymorphisms? There are two types of polymorphisms. What are the two types of polymorphisms? First one is like which one? Understand it. And static polymorphism. And second one is dynamic polymorphism. First one is static polymorphism, and the second one is which one? Dynamic polymorphism. Right, sir. Static polymorphism and dynamic polymorphism. Right, sir. In static polymorphism, right, sir. First one is static polymorphism, and second one is like which one? Dynamic polymorphism. Right, sir. What is this static polymorphism? If the polymorphism is existed at compilation time, if the polymorphism is recognized at compilation time, if the polymorphism is existed at the compilation time, then that polymorphism is called as static polymorphism. If the polymorphism is existed at compilation time, then that polymorphism is called as which one? No? Static polymorphism. As observe this clearly now. If the polymorphism is existed at compilation time, then that polymorphism is called as which one? Static polymorphism. This is one point. Example for static polymorphism is like which one here? Overloading. Example for static polymorphism is which one? Overloading. Second one is what is this dynamic polymorphism? Answer is very clear. If the polymorphism is existed, if the polymorphism is existed or exhibited at a runtime, then that polymorphism is called as dynamic polymorphism. That polymorphism is called as which one? Dynamic polymorphism. Right, sir. If the polymorphism is existed at runtime, then the polymorphism is called as which one? Dynamic polymorphism. Examples for this dynamic polymorphism. Example for dynamic polymorphism is like which one? You know, overriding. Overriding. But here I don't require this overriding and all. Just I require only overloading. Overloading. If you observe this now, there are two types of overloadings are available. There are two types of overloadings. What are the two types of overloadings now? First one is like which one? Like method overloading. Method overloading. And the second one is method overloading is the first one. And the second one is like which one? operator overloading. First one is method overloading and second one is like which one? Operator overloading. There are two types of method overloadings are available. First one is method overloading and second one is like which one? No, operator overloading. These are the two types of overloadings are existed. Right, sir. Good. Now observe this clearly. What is this method overloading and what is this operator overloading? If you observe this point, no, I'll give some clarity. No, method overloading in the sense like which one? If we declare more than one method, with the same name and with the different parameter list. If we declare more than one method with the same name and with a different parameter list, then it is called as method overloading. Right, sir. Thus, I will give one example also regarding this method of overloading. What is this example here? Understand this. For example, class A. Guys, this is totally introduction part. No need to think much about it. Even if you are not understanding, just no need to think much about it. Just I'm giving the sequence of points from where this operator overloading is coming. I'm giving the total path. That's why I'm talking about all these things. Not worry for that. Direct point I will discuss with you later on. Now here, for example, then what I will do now, class A I have taken where void add into comma into j that I provided and some implementation here we are able to have there. What is that implementation there? Add is available. This is an implementation now. Next one is void add is available where the parameters are like which one? Float f1 comma float f2. Right, sir. Here we are having like which one? Some intersections. Right, sir. Next one is void add is available. Now here I'll provide like which one? String str1 comma and string str2. Here we are having there some intersections here we are able to have there. Right, sir. 1 minute. Right, sir. Understand this clearly. And now if you observe this clearly, in a class K, three methods here have taken. What are the three methods here we have taken there? Add method int I comma int j, add method float f1 comma float f2, add method string str1 comma string str2. Like this here we have taken three add methods. In all three add methods, just have taken some parameter list int I comma int j float f1 comma float f2 string str1 comma str2. Like this I've taken some parameters. As all of you observe this clearly now. Void add of int I comma int j, void float add of float f1 comma float f2, void add of string str1 comma string str2 that we provided clearly. Understand this now. Right, sir. After completion of this, just if you observe this, more than one method with the same name. Method names are same, but parameter list is different. So this is called as like which one? No, method overloading. After this clearly. Then in the same way, then what is this operator overloading? That's our required point actually. Operator overloading is which one? If we declare single operator, if we declare an operator with more than one operation, then it is called as operator overloading. If we declare an operator with more than one operation, then it is called as which one? Operator overloading. Guys, observe this clearly. If we declare an operator with more than one operation, then it is called as which one? Operator overloading. Right, sir. Now examples I am telling to you, observe this clearly. If we declare an operator with more than one operation, say for example, into A is equal to 10, into B is equal to 20. Guys, all of you observe this clearly. Into A is equal to 10 and into B is equal to 20 that we have taken. A is equal to 10 and B is equal to 20. Next one is int C is equal to A plus B semicolon. Int A is equal to 10 and B is equal to 20. Int C is equal to A plus B that we have taken. Okay, good. Next one is similarly, here what I will do now, sys.out.println of C, here we are able to display. Next one is string str1 is equal to ABC and string str2 is equal to DEF. Now string str3 is equal to str1 plus str2. String str3 is equal to str1 plus str2. Sys.out.println of str3. That's it. Here, observe this clearly. Int A is equal to 10 and B is equal to 20 and C is equal to A plus B. Sys.out.println of C. String str1 is equal to ABC. String str2 is equal to DEF. String str3 is equal to str1 plus str2. System.out.println of str3. That's it. This is the point here we have to understand. Right, sir. After completion of this, then what I am telling to you clearly, if you observe this total content, now observe this clearly. Guys, all of you understand this now. Whenever we are providing this data, if you observe this, here plus operator here we have used, sir. What is the purpose of this plus operator now? Here plus operator is for arithmetic addition. Here plus operator is for which one? There no arithmetic addition. Plus operator is not for any other one. Just plus operator is for arithmetic addition. A value 10, B value 20. Here A plus B 10 plus 20. Now here that output is like which one here? No 30. 30 is an output here we are getting. System.out.println of C, output is like which one? 30. That's okay, fine. Next one, sir. After completion of this, the second thing is like which one here? Right, sir. Now here plus operator is for which one here? String concatenation. Plus operator is for which one here? No, string concatenation. Observe this clearly. All right, sir. Now here str1 value is ABC, str2 value is which one? DEF. str1 plus str2, that means like which one here? ABC DEF that we are getting. ABC DEF. Here ABC DEF is nothing but like which one here? No, concatenation, string concatenation. Observe clearly, symbol is same, operator name is same, operator is same, plus operator. But how many functionalities are available? Two functionalities are available. One is like which one? Arithmetic addition, and second one is like which one? No, string concatenation. One is like which one? Arithmetic addition, and second one is like which one? String concatenation. That we are getting exactly. Right, sir. Arithmetic addition and string concatenation that we are getting. Right, sir. This is what exactly the meaning of like which one here. No, like what I'm telling to you. This is what exactly the meaning of like which one? Operator overloading. Right, sir. Good. All of you understand it. Why this operator overloading is coming from which place here we are? It is getting this operator overloading. If you observe this total points, just what I've given there clearly. First of all, I've given what exactly object-oriented features. What are the various object-oriented features here we are discussing? What are these object-oriented features now? Class, object, encapsulation, abstraction, inheritance, polymorphism, message passing. These are exactly the object-oriented features here we are getting. All of you observe this clearly. Right, sir. Next one is I given information out of this object-oriented features. Just I've given like which one? Polymorphism. What is the meaning of this polymorphism here? We understood there. What exactly the meaning of polymorphism, sir? If one thing is exist in more than one form, then it is called as which one? Polymorphism. What is the main advantage of polymorphism? The main advantage of polymorphism is flexibility. The main advantage of polymorphism is which one? Flexibility. How many types of polymorphisms are existed there? Two types of polymorphisms are existed. Static polymorphism and dynamic polymorphism. Two types of polymorphisms. One is static polymorphism, another one is which one? Dynamic polymorphism. What is static polymorphism and what is dynamic polymorphism? If the polymorphism is existed at compilation time, then that polymorphism is called as static polymorphism. If the polymorphism is existed at compilation time, then that polymorphism is called as which one? Static polymorphism. Example is like which one? Overloading. Next one is dynamic polymorphism. If the polymorphism is existed at runtime, then that polymorphism is called as which one? Dynamic polymorphism. Example for this dynamic polymorphism is which one? Overriding. Right, sir. How many types of overloadings are existed? Two types of overloadings. One is method overloading, another one is operator overloading. Observe this method overloading. If we declare more than one method with the same name and with a different parameter list, then it is called as like which one? Method overloading. Right, sir. Next one is after completion of this. Another point is like which one? Example is more than one method here we can declare with a different parameter list. Then it is called as which one? Method overloading. Next one is operator overloading. If we declare more than one operator with more than one operation, then it is called as which one? Operator overloading. Right, sir. Now here if you observe this total process, no, if you observe this one, plus operator is used for which one? Arithmetic addition. Plus operator is used for which one? No, string concatenation. So plus operator is overloaded operator, and the process of defining plus for both the operations, then that is called as which one? Operator overloading. Right, sir. Understand it clearly now. This is called as like which one? Operator overloading. Good. Now here my question is which one? My question is here in this total context. My question is how operator overloading is not possible in Java. Why it is not possible in Java? Why operator overloading is not possible in Java? Right, sir. Two simple reasons only, not much serious reasons, and very, very simple reasons why it is not possible in Java. Answer is very simple. All of you observe this clearly. First reason is which one? It is rarely used feature in applications. It is very rarely used feature in applications. Operator overloading is rarely used feature in applications. It's almost all dead. In application requirement point of view, it's almost all dead. It's very, very rarely used feature. That's why operator overloading is not possible in Java. This is one thing. Java has not put any concentration on this operator overload. This is one thing. Second thing is which one? If we declare more number of operators with more number of operations, that means functionalities. Operators are, for example, one operator, two functionalities, okay, fine, we can recognize. Two operators, four functionalities in the sense, okay, fine, we can recognize it. Okay, fine. If we take 10 operators, each operator is having 10 functionalities. 10 operators and each operator has a 10 functionalities. Then definitely it is difficult for developer to trace out which operator is for which functionality. Definitely it is very much difficult for us to trace out which operator is for which functionality. That's it. All of you understand it clearly now. So this is a problem here. So that's why here what we are able to specify now, if we declare more number of operators with more number of functionalities, then it will increase confusion. It will increase confusion. It will increase confusion to the developers. So it's a bit confusion oriented feature when we declare more and more number of operators and more number of functionalities. Because of that reason, what we are having there, operator overloading is not possible in Java. Because of these two reasons only, operator overloading is not existed in the case of Java. Try to recognize this point. Right, sir. But I will ask one question to you. What is my question now? Operator overloading is not possible in Java because of these two reasons. Yes, well and good. We understood it. But now tell me, is this code is not possible in Java? Is this code is not executable in Java? Is this code is not executable in Java? Is it possible to run this code in Java programming, in Java applications? Come on, guys, you have to answer for my question now. Is this code is possible or not possible? Is this code is executable or not? Definitely, if it is executable, good, your answers are right. If it is executable, then how can we say operator overloading is not existing in Java? If this code is executable, how can we say how can you say this operator overloading is not possible in Java? How can you say like this? This is Java code, and if this code is executable, how can we say it is not possible in the case of Java? Right, sir. The point is like which one? All of you understand this clearly. All of you observe carefully. This code is executable, damn sure. No doubt for that. This code is executable, damn sure. No doubt for that. But still, I'm telling to you, operator overloading is not possible. Why, sir? What is that internal point actually? All of you understand it now. As per Java internal requirement, as per Java internal requirement, as per Java internal requirement, Java made some of the operators, Java made some of the operators as per Java internal requirement, Java made some of the operators, Java made some of the operators as overloaded operators with fixed functionalities. As per Java internal requirement, Java made some of the operators as overloaded operators with the fixed functionalities. With the fixed functionalities as per its internal requirement. Examples, if you observe there, some of the operators in the sense examples I'm able to say plus operator, next one is a star operator, percentile operator, like this, and so on. One or two more. That's it. Right, so with the fixed functionalities, but please recognize this point, but Java has not provided any option. Java has not given any option to the developers to perform operator overloading. Java has not given any option to the developers to perform operator overloading explicitly, that is at a developer's level, explicitly at a developer's level. Guys, observe this clearly. As per Java internal requirement, Java made some of the operators as overloaded operators, like which one here, plus, star, personal, and so on, with the fixed functionalities. But Java has not provided any option to the developers to perform operator overloading explicitly at a developer's level. That's it. So at our level, if you want to define some operator plus, I want to give some functionality, some explicit functionality to the operator plus. No, it's not possible in Java. Java has not given any option like that. But internally, Java has declared some of the operators as overloaded operators as per its internal requirement. So because of that reason here, we can conclude, we can understand clearly, operator overloading is not possible in Java at a developer level, but internally at a JVM level and internally, Java had some of the overloaded operators. That is internal functionality point of view. But explicitly, Java has not given any flexibility to perform like which one? No, operator overloading. Yes, sir. All of you are getting clarity or not? This is one point. Right, sir. This is the total awareness on like which one? No, operator overloading. Right, sir. Good. Up to this clearly. After completion of this operator overloading this particular point, and another difference is like which one? I think so. This is the sixth difference, right? Yeah. Now the seventh point here, what I am telling to you, guys, observe this. All of you listen carefully. The seventh point. Yeah. Whenever we are developing an application, there we are unable to do operator overloading. There we are unable to perform that operator overloading. Not possible for us. But internally, Java had some of the operators, predefined operators as overloaded operators. Leave it anyway. Now coming to the next point. Right, sir. Destructors are existed at C++, but destructors are not required in Java. Simply saying destructors required in C++, but destructors are not required in Java. Right, so this is another difference. Destructors required in C++, but destructors are not required in Java. Right, sir. Developer level operator overloading in the sense, guys, so for example, plus operator is available. For this, I want to give multiplication capability. That is my own requirement. Plus operator is available. For this, I want to give multiplication capability. That's my requirement. Understand it? Is it possible for me to give multiplication capability? That is my explicit requirement. Explicitly, I have to do that multiplication, comma addition. Both I want to perform. Addition and multiplication I want to perform. That's my explicit requirement. Right, sir. Understand it now. That's why in this particular scenario, it is not possible. It is not possible for like which one developer. But internally, up to addition and concatenation, it was provided for that. That is possible internally for this plus. So for this plus, if you want to define extra functionalities in Java, then it is not possible. That's the meaning of like which one? Developers level operator overloading. Understand it? What I'm telling to you? Yes? No response, guys. That means as per my own requirement, implementing like which one? No, operator overloading. Explicitly, if you want to do that, it is not possible. Right, sir. But anyway, leave this one. It's not required for us. And I'm not getting that. Viren Parmar. Just I'm talking with Jagadish. Jagadish has asked this question actually. That's why I'm giving that answer now. Yeah. Anyway, it is not possible in Java. If it is possible, then I can talk about it. If it is possible, then I can go for example there, but it is not possible in Java. That's why it is not possible in Java that I'm giving clarity. Right, sir. Good. Anyway, understand it. All right, sir. Now coming to the next point, seventh point. What about this seventh one here? Destructors are destructors required in the C++, but destructors are not required. Destructors are not required in Java. Destructors required in C++, but destructors are not required in Java. That's the point, sir. Now, first of all, before going to understand destructors are required or not required in a C++ and Java, first of all, what is this destructor? What is this destructor and what is the purpose of the destructor in the programming languages? You have to understand it. Guys, again, I'm asking one question to all of you. Now, try to answer for it. All of you, I'm asking this question to all of you. Now, try to answer for it. Guys, now tell me. All of you, now tell me. When a programming language is an object-oriented programming language, when a programming language is an object-oriented programming language, guys, now tell me no. When a programming language is an object-oriented programming language, now tell me. If any programming language represents data, if any programming language represents data or stores data in the form of objects, then that programming language is called as like which one? No, object-oriented programming language. While representing data in the form of objects, a set of rules and regulations here we are following. They are nothing but object-oriented features. That's okay, good. Right, sir. The point is which one? In object-oriented programming, it is convention to store data in the form of objects. It is convention to store data in the form of objects. Good. Right, sir. Here the point is, if you want to represent data in the form of objects, first, if you want to represent data in the form of objects, first, we have to confirm. First, we have to create object. After creating object only, we will store data inside the object. We will read data from the object. We will update the data inside the object. We will delete data from the object. That's okay, good. These operations we can do. But first of all, we have to create object. After creating object only, we can manipulate the data. Then after completion of our manipulations, we have to destroy the objects. Come on, guys. 3 operations here I'm telling to you. In object-oriented programming languages, to manipulate data, we have to perform First, what we have to perform to manipulate data? First, to create an object. We have to create an object. Second one is like which one here? Manipulate data. Manipulate data in object. Manipulate data in object in the sense like which one can know? Store data. Next one is like which one? Update. Next one is like which one? Delete is not possible, anyway, leave it now. Delete and read and so on. All these operations are nothing but which one? Manipulating data in object. Then after the third one is like which one can know? Destroy an object. Destroy the object. Destroy object. They are the three operations. So mainly here what I am telling to you, just what we have to do mainly, we need to create objects or not? Creating an object. Next one is like which one can know? Destroying an object. Creating an object, and next one is like which one? Destroying an object. Observe this clearly. Creating an object, next one is like which one? Destroying an object. If you want to create an object, in object-oriented programming, if you want to create an object, where we have to use like which one? No, constructors. To create an object, here we have to use like which one? Constructors. To create an object, here we have to use like which one? Constructors. That's okay. This is one point. To destroy an object, here we have to use like which one? No, destructors. To create an object, we will use constructors, and to destroy an object, we will use which one? Destructors. These two things here we have to use in object-oriented programming. Guys, observe this clearly. What is the purpose of constructor? Come on, guys. All of you respond for my question now. What is the purpose of constructor? What exactly the purpose of constructor? Now tell me. Purpose of the constructor is to create an object. What is the purpose of destructor? Now tell me. To destroy an object. Good, sir. So purpose of the constructor is to create an object. Purpose of destructor is which one? To destroy an object. That's okay. Good. Now all of you understand it clearly. In Java, to destroy objects, Java has provided an implicit tool, an implicit component. To destroy objects, Java has provided an implicit component in the form of garbage collector. All of you observe carefully. In the case of Java, garbage collector component is available to destroy. That means to destroy the objects automatically. So where developer interference is not available, automatically when the object is unnecessary, automatically garbage collector will destroy these objects. Understand my point? Garbage collector will destroy that objects. In Java, to destroy object, Java has provided an implicit component in the form of garbage collector. All of you observe this clearly now. Java has provided an implicit component in the form of which one? Garbage collector. Good. So in Java, garbage collector is destroying objects. In Java, garbage collector is destroying objects. So developers are not required to destroy objects. In Java, garbage collector is destroying objects, so developers are not required to destroy objects. So when developers are not required to destroy objects now, so that in Java, destructors are not required. If developers are destroying objects now, definitely destructors are required. But in Java, developers are not destroying the objects. Only garbage collector is destroying the objects. So automatically, destructors are not required in the case of Java. Right, sir. All of you observe this clearly. Destructors are not required in Java. Why? Because garbage collector is available. Because of that garbage collector only, destructors requirement is not available. So Java does not allow destructors point. Observe this clearly. But here, in the case of C++, what happened? In the case of C++, what exactly the thing is going on now? Tell me now. In case of C++, garbage collector kind of component is not existed. Garbage collector kind of component is not existed. When garbage collector kind of component is not existed, so that in a C++, we must use destructors to destroy objects. Everybody, understand my point? In the case of the C++, garbage collector kind of component is not existed. So that in C++, we must use destructors to destroy objects. Nothing, sir. Just this much of explanation I've given. Only one point here we have to understand. In Java, garbage collector is available to destroy the objects. In C++, garbage collector is not available to destroy the objects. That's why we have to use destructors. In Java, garbage collector is available to destroy the objects, so destructors are not required. In the case of C++, garbage collector is available. Garbage collector is not available in C++, so destructors must be required. Guys, now tell me, which memory management is very good memory management system now? Which memory management system is very good memory management system? You have to answer for my questions. Which memory management system is very good memory management system? Is that C++ or Java? Java or C++? Java or C++? Yes, obviously Java. Why? Because in the case of Java, developers are responsible for creating objects only. In the case of Java, developers are responsible for creating objects only. That's it. Developers are only responsible for creating objects. Developers are not responsible for destroying the objects. In the case of Java, developers are not responsible for destroying the objects. Developers are responsible for creating objects only. In the case of Java, please observe this point. But in the case of C++, developers are responsible for creating objects and as well as destroying objects. In the case of C++, developers are responsible for creating objects and as well as which one? No, destroying the objects. Because of that reason, Java memory management is very good when compared with which one? C++. When compared with C++, Java memory management is very good. This is the point here we have to recognize now clearly. Right, sir. Now, this is what we completed here. We can understand it now. Right, sir. This point is anyway is completed about this garbage collector availability in Java, not available in C++. So destructors are available in C++. Destructors are not available in the case of Java. Right, sir. Now coming to the 8th point, observe this clearly. 8th difference is like which one? C and C++ or C and C++ are following call by value and call by reference. Call by value and call by reference parameter passing mechanisms. But Java is following only call by value parameter passing mechanism. Right, sir. C and C++ are following call by value and call by reference parameter passing mechanism, but Java is following only call by value parameter passing mechanism. So what is garbage collector? Garbage collector is a component in Java. It able to destroy the objects. Just for destroying objects, a special component is provided by Java. That component is which one? Garbage collector. Not more than that. It is existed inside the JVM. Is a separate service. JVM is having a separate service from garbage collector, destroying the objects. Right. Right, sir. It's understood what I said to you. Shruti, I think you have asked this question now. No response. Okay, fine. Now, up to this point, no, before going to understand call by value, call by reference are followed or not followed in C, C++, Java, before that, first we have to understand what is call by value and what is call by reference. First, we have to observe clearly what is the meaning of this call by value and what is the meaning of call by reference. Then after that, we will understand which things are possible and which things are not possible in the case of C, C++, and Java. Right, sir. Now, anyway, then to understand this call by value and call by reference, lot of storage available internally. But if you go for that academic level, then very good content is available there internally, but not required for us. Simple definitions I want to provide. With that simple definitions, we can give conclusion. What exactly that simple definitions? No, all of you understand it clearly. In all the programming languages, in all the programming languages, as observe this clearly, in all the programming languages, if we pass primitive data, primitive data in the sense like which ones are now understand it clearly, int, float, long, double, and so on. This type of data, Boolean, character, right, sir? Answer my point clearly now. If we pass primitive data, int, float, long, double as parameters to the methods, right, sir? Parameters to the methods, then the parameter passing mechanism, is called as call by value. Just if you pass primitive data, byte, short, int, long, float, double, Boolean, character, 8 number of primitive data types are available in Java. Integer data, float data, long data, double data. If you pass like this as parameters to the methods, then the parameter passing mechanism is nothing but like which one? No, call by value parameter passing mechanism. Right, so this is one point. Next one is, all of you understand it clearly. In all the programming languages, sir, then this call by value just is a normal, sir. Anything, just if you take these examples like which one, class A, something else like which one here, and void add if I take, no, now here int I comma int j. Here the meaning is like which one, no? If you observe this point here, if I call this method by passing the data, for example, a small a is equal to new object a dot add of 10 comma 20. Just what I'm passing here actually, integer data I'm passing there, primitive data. So here the mechanism, 10 value will be stored to I variable and 20 value will be stored to the j variable. If you do any modification here, and I and j values are going to be modified. Anyway, this mechanism is nothing but which one? No, call by value parameter passing mechanism. Understand it? So it's not like any specific examples or specific like this now. Right, sir? Understand it clearly now. Right, sir. Next, observe this clearly. So if in all programming languages, if we pass address locations, as parameters to the methods, in all programming languages, if we pass address locations as parameters to the methods, then the parameter passing mechanism is called by reference. Address locations. If you pass address locations to the methods, then the parameter passing mechanism would be called by reference. After this, all of you know. Next one, sir, after completion of this. After understanding this point, then what about the next one here? Listen carefully. That other thing is like which one? After completion of this. Now the next one is in C and C++. In C and C++, if we pass pointer variables as a parameters to the methods. As observe this clearly, in C and C++, if you pass pointer variables as parameters to the methods, then the parameter passing mechanism will be, then the parameter passing mechanism would be call by reference. Why, sir? How can we say it's a call by reference? Any reason for it now? Tell me now. If you pass pointer variables as parameters to the methods, then the parameter passing mechanism is call by reference. Why? Because what is the reason for it? Reason would be in a C and C++. In a C and C++, pointer variables are able to store address locations. Passing pointer variables as parameters to the methods in the sense we are passing automatically address locations as parameters to the methods. We are passing address locations as parameters to the methods. Understand it clearly. So that's why this parameter passing mechanism is called as like which one here no? This parameter passing mechanism is called as like which one here no? Is called as call by reference parameter passing mechanism. That's it. Simple point. Not required to think much about it. Just if you pass a reference, that means address locations as parameters to the methods, then the parameter passing mechanism is called by reference. In the case of C and C++, when we pass pointer variables as parameters to the methods, then the parameter passing mechanism would be called by a reference only. Why? Because pointer variables are able to store which one? No, address locations. Pointer variables are able to store address locations. Observe this clearly. And Nehar Giri, I think all the members are getting clarity on my voice. Please check your system also now. Then only you are giving intimation. No other person is giving intimation. Please check your system. Then myself is right. From myself, I am not getting any problem there. Nehar, please check your system voice. Your internet connection also now. Okay. Guys, all of you get my voice clearly? Yes, yes. Right, sir. That's fine. Now coming to the next point. What about my next point here? In Java, pointers concept is anyway it's not available. In place of pointers, which one is available? In Java, if you pass object reference variable, in Java, if you pass object reference variable as a parameter to the methods, as parameters to the methods, reference variables as parameters to the methods, then the parameter passing mechanism will be called by value only. Will be called by value only. Why, sir? Why it is called by value? Why it is not called by reference actually? Why? Because called by value only. Why? Because in Java, object reference variables, understand guys, object reference variables are able to, in Java, object reference variables are able to store reference object reference values. Object reference values, where object reference values are not storing address location. Come on guys, now tell me, what is this object reference value? Come on, now tell me, what is this object reference value, sir? Now tell me, no. Object reference value is which one? Right, sir. Right, sir. Now tell me what exactly the object reference value. I already given that information to you guys previously. Differences between pointer variable and reference variable I discussed there. Some diagram also were given there. Right, sir. In the case of Java, object reference value is which one? Hexadecimal form of a hash code. Hexadecimal form of hash code. Hexadecimal form of hash code is nothing but which one? No, like reference value. But what is this hash code value actually? Hash code is an unique identity provided by heap manager in the form of an integer value. Hash code is an unique identity provided by heap manager in the form of an integer value. That integer value is called as which one here? No, hash code of the object. Hash code is not an address location. Then reference value is not an address location. Understand my point now? Reference value is hexadecimal form of hash code. Hash code is an integer value provided by heap manager as an unique identity for our object. So address locations manipulations are not available with the hash code and with which one? No, reference value of the object. Right, sir. Because of that reason, here we can give conclusion. Even in the case of, even if you pass the reference variable as parameter to the method, in the case of Java, then the parameter passing mechanism would be called by value only. It is not called by reference. Why? Because in the case of Java, object reference variables are able to store object reference values, where object reference values are not storing address locations. Where object reference values are not address locations. Because of that reason, we can understand clearly in a C and a C++, call by value and call by reference both are possible. In the case of Java, only call by value is possible, call by reference is not possible, even if you pass object reference variable as parameters to the respective methods. This is about like which one here? 8th point here we have to understand, sir. Now coming to the 9th difference, sir. 9th difference. Now try to observe this last difference in the differences between Java and others. If you observe this last one, no, all of you understand this clearly. In the C and C++, memory allocation for integers is 2 bytes of memory and characters is 1 byte. But in Java, integers will take 4 bytes of memory and characters will take 2 bytes of memory. Right, so this is another difference. We can understand it clearly. In C and C++, memory allocation for integers is 2 bytes and characters is 1 byte. But in Java, integers will take 4 bytes of memory, but characters will take 2 bytes of memory. Right, sir. This is the point here what we are having. The simple difference I'm telling you, try to understand it now. Listen carefully. One conclusion I'm telling to all of you guys. In the C and C++, memory allocation for the primitive data types. Memory allocation for primitive data types. In a C and C++, memory allocation for primitive data types is not fixed. In a C and C++, memory allocation for primitive data types is not fixed. It is variable and it is depending on the operating system which we use. Depending on the operating system which we use. As all of you observe this clearly. In a C and C++, memory allocation for primitive data types is not fixed. It is variable and it is depending on the operating system which we use. It is totally depending on the operating system which we use. As all of you are getting my point now. So by this point also we can conclude. C and C++ are platform dependent. C and C++ are platform dependent. Even in this direction also we can give conclusion. C and C++ are which one? Platform dependent. Yes, all of you observe this clearly. In a C and C++, memory allocation for primitive data types is not fixed. It is variable and it is depending on the operating system which we use. All of you observe this clearly. Next one is in Java, memory allocation for the primitive data types is fixed irrespective of the operating system which we use. Right, sir. In the case of Java, memory allocation for primitive data types is fixed irrespective of the operating system which we use. Right, sir. So primitive data types, I said to you already. Then some data types I specified to you. Anyway, then once again I will talk about it. The data types. Okay. Just I will give the data types information. Try to understand it. In case of Java, memory allocation for the primitive data types is fixed irrespective of the operating system which we use. Predefined data types, primitive data types in the sense primary data types and predefined data types. In the case of Java, byte, short, int, long, float, double, then after that char, then after that what next one can boolean. All these are which one can primitive data types. Byte, short, int, long, float, double, char, boolean. All these are which one? No, primitive data types. Right, sir. These primitive data types memory allocation is varied. In case of C and C++, from Windows to Linux and Linux to Unix, like this, some difference is available in a C and C++. But in the case of Java, it is fixed. What is that fixed memory allocations in the case of Java? Byte will take 1 byte of memory and short will take 2 bytes of memory. Next one is int will take 4 bytes of memory. Long will take 8 bytes of memory. long will take 8 bytes of memory, and float will take again here 4 bytes of memory. 4 bytes of memory. Double will take like which one here in 8 bytes of memory. Char will take 2 bytes of memory, and boolean will take 1 bit. Boolean will take like which one? 1 bit. 1 bit only. That's it. Come on, guys, understand it clearly now. This is the memory quotation. These are the memory quotations, or this is a memory allocation for primitive data types in the case of Java. In Java, these memory allocations are fixed. We can use any of the operating systems. Right, sir. Next one is, observe this point clearly now. Just in general, this is awareness for all the members in outside gear. People are having this kind of awareness. In a C and a C++, 2 bytes of, see, for example, if I asked you directly, how much memory is for integers in C, in general, people are saying 2 bytes of memory. That's why I give in this point. But actual reality is like this. Reality is like this. But in general, people awareness is like which one? 2 bytes of memory for integers and 1 byte of memory for characters now. In general, that people are saying like that. But reality is which one here? Memory allocation is varied from one operating system to another operating system now. It is not fixed one. Right, sir. But in the case of Java, it is fixed. Observe this clearly. So, guys, understand it? No response. Say, for example, yes. Right, sir. Good. Now, sir, now come for it. But immediately I have a question now. What about my next question here? Understand this question. In a C and a C++, in a C and a C++, 1 byte of memory is sufficient to store characters data. But in Java, 2 bytes of memory, 2 bytes of memory is required for characters. 2 bytes of memory is required for characters. Why? This is my question. Why 2 bytes of memory is required for characters in Java, and 1 byte of memory is sufficient for characters in the case of C and C++? Right? Then why? What is the purpose of Java to assign 2 bytes of memory? Right, sir. Answer is very clear. Try to understand it now. Answer is very clear. In a C and C++, memory for the characters is only 1 byte, but in the case of Java, 2 bytes. Why? In C and C++, all characters are represented. All characters are represented in the form of. All characters are represented in the form of like which one? ASCII values. So to store ASCII values, 1 byte of memory is sufficient. Because of that reason, that character set is required which one? 1 byte of memory. In a C and C++, characters are represented in the form of ASCII values. So 1 byte of memory is required to store all these ASCII values. That's okay, fine. Next one is, because of that, another thing is which one? In the case of Java, all characters are represented. All characters are represented in the form of which one can know Unicode representations. In the case of Java, all characters are represented in the form of which one? Unicode representations. Observe this clearly. All characters are represented in the form of which one? Unicode representations. But to represent Unicode value, to store any Unicode value, 2 bytes of memory is required. To store any Unicode value, 2 bytes of memory is required. In the case of C and C++, character set is ASCII character set. So 1 byte of memory is sufficient. In the case of Java, character set is which one? Unicode. So to store any Unicode value, we require which one? 2 bytes of memory. Then immediately there is a question for us. What about this question now? What is Unicode and what is its purpose? Right, sir. Now, number of advantages are available for this Unicode. You'll understand them clearly. What is Unicode and what is its purpose? If you observe this point, all of you understand it clearly. Unicode is one of the character encoding mechanism is one of the character sets. Right, sir. What is its purpose actually? What it is greatness actually? It able to store or it able to represent. It able to represent all the alphabets from all the natural languages. It able to represent all the alphabets from all the natural languages. Like which one here? What are the various natural languages? No, English. Next one is like which one? Hindi. And what next one here? Marathi. Right, sir. And Telugu and Tamil and so on. Natural language might be at the same time like which one here? Italian language and Chinese language and so Japanese language. Right, sir. Understand this now. From all these natural languages, all the alphabets are represented. All the alphabets are represented from all the natural languages. We need to go for like which one? No, Unicode. Unicode is having that kind of capability. Okay, with this representation, what we are able to get? Then it able to provide very good internationalization. Very good internationalization support. Very good internationalization support. What is the meaning of internationalization, sir? This again, this is a question now. Nothing, sir. Internationalization, in short, we are able to call I-18N. In short, we are able to say I-18N. What is this actually? Internationalization, right, sir? Designing Java applications with respect to the local conventions. Like which one here? Number representations as per English. Dates representation as per Italian. Next one, currency representation as per Chinese. Like this, some as per the locality. Representing or designing Java applications with respect to the local conventions is called as I-18N. I-18N. That means I-18N in the sense 18 in the sense which one? In internationalization word between I and N, 18 symbols are available. Between I and N, 18 symbols are available. So that's why it is called as which one? I-18N, internationalization. Designing Java applications with respect to the local conventions. That is called as which one? No, internationalization. Right, sir. These are the sequence of points here we have to understand about this particular thing. Now understand this, what we are getting clearly, what exactly the points here I'm giving there. In a C and a C++, memory allocation for integers is 2 bytes of memory. And characters is which one? 1 byte. But in Java, integers will take 4 bytes of memory and characters will take 2 bytes of memory. Understand, guys? In C and C++, memory allocation for primitive data types is not fixed, it is variable, and it is depending on the operating system which we used. Right, sir. Next one. In Java, memory allocation for primitive data types is fixed irrespective of the operating system which we use. What are the various memory allocations now? In the case of Java, byte, 1 byte of memory, short will take 2 bytes of memory, integer will take 4 bytes of memory, long will take 8 bytes of memory, float will take 4 bytes of memory, double will take 8 bytes of memory, character will take 2 bytes of memory, next one is boolean will take 1 bit, not more than that. Right, sir. Then after that, after completion of this, we can understand this now. In a C and a C++, 1 byte of memory is sufficient to store characters data, but in Java, 2 bytes of memory is required for characters data Y. Right, sir. Answer for this question is very clear. In a C and a C++, characters are represented in the form of ASCII values. Characters are represented in the form of like which one? No, ASCII values. That is 1 byte of memory. That means ASCII values are required only 1 byte of memory. Within a single byte of memory, we can store all these ASCII values. But in the case of Java, all characters are represented in the form of Unicode representations. To store any Unicode value, we require which one? 2 bytes of memory. Then immediately here we have a question. One more question here we are getting here. What about this question? No. What is Unicode and what is its purpose? What is Unicode and what is its purpose? Right, sir. Here if we observe this clearly, Unicode is one of the character sets. It able to represent all the alphabet from all the natural languages like English, Hindi, Marathi, Telugu and so on, Italian, Chinese or whatever it may be. And it able to provide very good internationalization support in our Java applications. Then what is this internationalization support actually? Designing Java applications with respect to the local conventions is called as which one? Internationalization. Example is, number representation is varied from one language to another language. Say for example, as per the English numbers, we are able to put some commas between the numbers, between the letters, between the digits. But as per the Italian representation, we are going to put which one? Dots. In place of commas, we are able to provide dots. That means variation is available. From one language to another language, numbers are varied. From one language to another language, dates representation is varied. In as per this English, date, month, year, we are able to provide. And as per like which one, other countries might be America or maybe some other, there that dates representation is like which one? No, first might be month, next date, next one is year. So the difference is available from language to language, from country to country. But identifying the language and country and providing services with respect to language and country is nothing but which one? No, internationalization. Right, sir. Anyway, internationalization, we have a separate topic. There we are able to observe, where we are able to understand all these points. Right, sir. This is the total content here we can understand clearly. By these overall differences between Java and others, this topic is completed, sir. Overall, nearly 9 number of differences can be understood. The next content, it will be like which one? Java features. Java features is the next topic. The topic I will discuss with you tomorrow. Java features content. Then tomorrow, if I complete the Java features, then I will go over Java naming conventions and Java programming format. All the points here we are going to discuss. Maybe by Monday, I'm going to start steps to prepare first Java application. How to prepare first Java application, that I'm going to discuss there Monday onwards. So here we are going to understand all these points clearly. Right, sir. That's all for today. Then tomorrow we'll see the remaining content. Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot. Yeah, Saturday we have class. Maybe possibilities are available to take class on Sunday also. Sunday and Saturday, maybe both the days I may take the sessions. Sunday also may be possible this weekend. Why? Because I have some boundary for it. I need to complete up to this Java programming format. Right, so that's why here I may take class on Sunday also, maybe. Yeah, the same time, of course. Just 1 minute, wait, sir. Anyway, I will share this document within a minute of time. No need to worry for that. Yeah. Okay, guys, that's fine. That's all for today. Then tomorrow we'll see the remaining part, and I will share this content today now. Just within 5 minutes, I will share that.